Hello class, my name is Neil Gertisser and this is my final paper presentation. I decided to do mine on the corruption in the Border Patrol, specifically concentrating on the United States and Mexico border. I started off with just a basic introduction and talked roughly about the fact that there is illegal drugs and individuals that go through the Mexico and U.S. border, and that it is quite porous, as we all know. I kind of talk. I hit on the fact that that the Border Patrol has grown substantially in the last 10 years, going from about 11,000 to 21,000 agents, and that the majority of those agents are actually on the southern border. Then I talk about some of the requirements to be in the Border Patrol and that have changed and that have helped it. And one of those things is just the polygraph, which is kind of a good thing, making sure that people aren't getting into it to lie about it and whatnot. Then I talked a little bit about how many people actually go back and forth across the border. I think the number that I really want to take away from this is that there's 122 individuals that actually cross the southern border on a yearly basis legally. That's not including the illegals that may or may not go through the border or that go through the unmanned ports. So I talked about that. I touched on the fact that although we would like to think that that everyone coming through the borders are Mexican, unfortunately they are not. There are a lot of Central Americans out of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador just trying to escape poverty and corruption. I then just touch on a few, and then after I kind of laid down kind of what was going on, I wanted to touch on 4 different cases in regards to corruption within the Border Patrol. I talk about the Villarreal brothers who ended up netting about $1 million, and they are in jail for about 35 years each, which is pretty. So, and that's what they're facing. What I talked about the 2 friends, Alvarez and McLaren, who ended up smuggling individuals across, or actually releasing them, not so much smuggling. They were already in custody, and then they would release them so that they wouldn't be returned to the Mexican government. Those individuals were able to capture $300,000 for themselves. I touched on another set of brothers out of Texas who ended up getting $1.5 million for their smuggling operation. And unlike the other two operations, they were transporting drugs or allowing drugs to come into the states and not so much individuals. So that was the big thing, is that, and then those 3 were big hitters. We're talking 300,000, 1.5 million, and $1 million. And then I also talked about an individual out of Arizona in the Border Patrol that he ended up going away for only 20 months because he wasn't smuggling, he wasn't drugs or individuals, but he was providing information to smugglers so that they could bypass sensors and stuff like that. And all he received was $5,500. So corruption within the Border Patrol was actually quite varied. One thing that I did notice in all 3 cases is the fact that they all were veterans of the Border Patrol. They'd spent multiple years in. The other thing is a lot of them were using government vehicles so that they wouldn't get caught. So they were very cognizant of how to evade detection and in their dealings with the illegal immigration and of aliens and bringing illegal drugs in and actually giving away secrets, basically. Kind of touched on what the fixes have been so far. They've increased the number of individuals on the border, so obviously you have that. I also looked at they're starting to do polygraphs, which is making sure the right people are getting into the right jobs, and they're concentrating individuals in the right areas to stop that, to not only stop the immigration, but also to stop those that think that they can get away with it as there's more people. Talked slightly about what what has happened, who, the positives, to include a 47% decrease in the number of illegal aliens coming across. I'm not sure if that's just breaking down on the corruption or just increasing the number of people that are there. And lastly, I just went over an analysis of actually the Border Patrol itself and kind of linked it back into the administrative evils that are being that we studied this month, this course. And that's really the nutshell of what my paper was. And just the responsive, like I said, to wrap it up, I wrapped the paper up just talking about how the administrative, the responsibilities, whether objective or subjective, play into a big role on them. So that's my paper. That's my presentation of my paper, and I appreciate you watching my video, and it was nice being in class with you. Thank you.